My mother.in.law, please take it seriously. To be honest, I am a cultivator. Mother-in-law. This son.in.law is a bit capable, but he's afraid that his daughter won't be able to surrender alone. Father.in.law. Chapter 1. I am coming to divorce. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Hacheng, Beishi Villa area. Dozens of luxury villas are nestled among the green mountains and waters. In sharp contrast to the wealth and status at this glance, Li Mukin stood outside the mountain villa. He was dressed in coarse linen clothes, with a pair of grey cloth shoes under his feet, and his long hair was tied up with a wooden hairpin, making him a poor Taoist. The security guard of the villa watched him with vigilance like a thief. Li Mukin came to withdraw from the marriage. The engagement was made 18 years ago between his grandfather and the old man of the Lin family, but he is not sure about the specific reason. At that time, he was only 2 years old, and the young lady of the Lin family had not yet been born. Li Mukin didn't know how his grandfather fooled the old man of the Lin family back then. At that time, their grandfather and grandson relied on each other and still relied on picking up scraps to make a living. At the age of 7, my grandfather, who had never left Hacheng, suddenly said he was going on a long journey. When we leave, it's early autumn, with red leaves covering the mountains. When I returned, it was December and heavy snow was falling. When he got home, Grandpa only had one last breath left. With a smile on his wrinkled face, he died in Li Mukin's childish arms. Later, he was taken to the Tiandu peak of Kunlun mountain by the passing Kunlun immortal Yunyangzi. More than 10 years have passed, and now he has been completely transformed. With only one step left, he can step into his innate nature and embark on the path of longevity. My master said that if he were born at this age, he would be the first person in 500 years. Then go down the mountain to experience and search for opportunities to break through nature in the mortal world. Master also said that immortals live in the mountains, not because the mountains are good, but in the mortal world, enchanting and bone-wrenching. Returning to Hacheng, Li Mukin's first thing was to come to the Lin family to get married. Although the Lin family is wealthy, they are disciples of the heavenly capital and disciples of the immortal sect. How could they bow down and be willing to be the son.in.law of a wealthy family? Besides, things like doll kissing are too futile and cliché. In the prime of my life, being bound by a marriage contract and waiting for someone I have never met before is unfair to both parties. So Li Mukin decided to withdraw from this marriage. Retreating can also be considered a way to settle the dust, and from then on, the Tao heart is firm, perhaps breaking through. Of course, Li Mukin is also worried. What if someone refuses to withdraw? After all, it made them wait for 18 years. 18 years ago, you didn't refuse. 18 years have passed, and when their daughter grew up, you suddenly said you wanted to divorce, which seems a bit unreasonable. The address of the Lin family was mentioned in the engagement, but only Beishi Mountain Villa was mentioned, without specifying which building. Li Mukin approached the security guard and asked, "Big brother, is there any owner surnamed Lin inside?" "Surname Lin." The security guard looked at him up and down a few times. "Why are you looking for someone surnamed Lin?" "Oh, I'm here to find relatives," Li Mukin said. "Relatives?" The security guard's eyes showed a hint of disdain as he had seen too many poor people come here to look for relatives. The young man in front of me, with tattered clothes and messy hair, is not like a Taoist or a beggar. The people living here are all surnamed Lin. You can tell which one you're looking for. The security guard's tone was sarcastic, as if saying, "Look who you know. Are you all surnamed Lin?" Li Mukin was somewhat surprised. "Are they all Lin's houses? I've heard that the Lin family has money, but I didn't expect them to be so wealthy. I'm looking for Lin Shangyi." Let's go." The security guard suddenly became fierce and made a look of driving away. "You've only heard of this name before, do you know who he is? Did you meet Mr. Lin casually?" Lee Mukin was completely fearless and said calmly, "My name is Lee Mukin. Just give Lin Shanyi a call and you'll know." The security guard couldn't bear to see his calm and composed demeanor. If it were really Mr. Lin's relative, he wouldn't have offended him. After saying, "Wait," I turned around and went to the security room to make a phone call. Lee Mukin looked at the villa group in front of him and couldn't help but feel that it was really a good place. It is also one of the feng shui treasures in Hecheng. Regardless of the site selection or the well-arranged layout, it is evident that there have been experts who have provided guidance. "Hey, what is that?" Lee Mukin looked up and saw a dark cloud above the villa group, as faint as thin gauze, which could not disperse. At this moment, the sky is clear and clear, which is clearly not a normal cloud. Although it may seem dull and ordinary people may not think it's abnormal, there is no escape from Lee Mukin's eyes. Dark clouds cover the top. This family seems to have been calculated by someone. Do you want to tell them? Just as Lee Mukin was thinking, the door opened and a middle-aged man in his 50s came out. The security guard nodded and ran over as soon as he saw someone coming. "Manager Luo," pointing to Lee Mukin, "it's him." Steward Luo looked up and down at Lee Mukin, with a hint of doubt and contempt in his eyes. "Your name is Lee Mukin?" "Yes." "Come with me." Steward Luo said nothing more and led Lee Mukin inside. The security guard looked at their backs and shook his head, muttering, "It's really lucky. Why don't I have such wealthy relatives?" Strolling through the garden of the Lin family villa, Lee Mukin was even more certain that the Lin family had been targeted. The feng shui pattern here has not changed, but the atmosphere has been disturbed. The luck of the Lin family will definitely be affected, and things may not be going smoothly during this period. He looked up at the dark cloud in the sky. Steward Luo took him into one of the villas, which was decorated in a magnificent manner. On the sofa in the living room sat a graceful and luxurious woman, well-maintained and not very old. Steward Luo said, "Madam, I have brought you here," and respectfully stood aside. The woman looked at Lee Mukin a few times, her eyes somewhat complicated. She picked up the tea cup next to her and took a soft sip at the edge of her mouth, as if she wanted to use the fragrance of the tea to remove the bad luck brought by the shabby young man in front of her. "Are you Lee Mukin?" the woman asked lightly. "Yes." "Coming from the mountains?" "Yes." Lee Mukin answered two "yes" in a row, and seeing that he was still not invited to sit, he walked over to the antique wooden chair next to him and sat down casually. He came to withdraw, not propose. Steward Luo's eyes flickered. The chair was so special that even he never dared to sit on it. He was about to shout and scold, but was stopped by a woman. "Forget it, the child who just came from the mountain doesn't understand the rules." The woman smiled, but the contempt in her eyes grew even stronger. "I'm looking for Mr. Lin Shangyalin." Lee Mukin didn't want to talk nonsense and quickly explained it to the old man so that he could leave. "The old man is not something you can see as you wish. If you have anything to say, let me know." "You can call me Mrs. Lin," the woman stated her identity. "Tell you what." Lee Mukin was a bit embarrassed. The person he was supposed to meet was Mr. Lin, but suddenly it was Mrs. Lin. This lady, judging by her age, is definitely not Lin Shanyi's wife, but rather Lin Shanyi's daughter. Law. Before the engagement is revoked, it means that the person sitting opposite is their expectant mother. Law. His embarrassed expression caught Mrs. Lin's eye. Mrs. Lin smiled and said, "You also feel embarrassed, don't you?" Lee Mukin nodded honestly and said, "It's a bit." Mrs. Lin laughed even more proudly, "You also feel embarrassed to say this, it's too much, right?" Lee Mukin was a bit confused. "Do you know what I'm doing here?" "Of course I know," Mrs. Lin sighed lightly. "Lee Mukin, this name was deeply ingrained in my heart 18 years ago, like a thorn, how could I forget it?" Lee Mukin thought to himself, "It's troublesome now. It seems that they attach great importance to this marriage. So, what, Lee Myukin tried his best to avoid any awkward situations that might arise next. Don't worry, Mrs. Lin interrupted him. You just came from the mountains. Let me tell you about the situation of our Lin family first. The Lin family has been passed down for over 100 years, and in terms of wealth and status, they can also be considered one of the top big families in Hecheng. Take the chair you are sitting on, the Ming Dynasty pear-wood carved dragon-patterned official hat chair. A few years ago, Jiada Auction House sold a pair for 23 million yuan. Mrs. Lin paused and took a special look at Lee Myukin, but there was no shocked expression on Lee Myukin's face, and she was slightly disappointed. This chair is specially prepared for the head of the Lin family. In all these years, you are the first outsider to sit on this chair. She deliberately emphasized the words outsiders to remind Lee Myukin of his identity. Do you understand what I mean? Lee Myukin nodded and said, I understand, your Lin family is very wealthy. Steward Luo, who was standing behind Mrs. Lin, almost burst out laughing. Isn't this guy a fool? Mrs. Lin was slightly taken aback. She didn't think Lee Myukin was a fool, more likely he was pretending to be foolish. The Sun.in.law of the Lin family, how many young masters want to come and climb up to their doorstep? Why bother pretending to be foolish and stunned? This is the smart person. Let me explain the white point again. Mrs. Lin raised her voice, and her voice became much more piercing. Families like our Lin family have always emphasized the importance of matching families' backgrounds in their marriages. For example, my family's surname is Yen and I come from Meicheng. Our Yen family is also one of the top families in Meicheng. Matching families allows the two families to take care of each other in business, so that couples can have common words and pursuits. Madam, what you mean is... Lee Myukin could tell that something was wrong. What I mean is that the Lin family cannot marry their daughter to a poor person without status. Mrs. Lin's words were resolute and unquestionable, even if it's a burden, it's not acceptable. Lee Myukin suddenly felt amused. I came to withdraw my marriage. It seems that someone has refunded it. Chapter 2. Power Transformation Master. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Whether you are dismissed or not, the result is the same, which saves a lot of trouble. But Mrs. Lin's attitude is a bit too arrogant. Madam, can you fully represent Mr. Lin? Lee Myukin must understand this point, otherwise this marriage and retirement will be impure, the relationship will be difficult to break, and there will be trouble in the future. Mrs. Lin clearly misunderstood his meaning and sneered, saying, You're really shameless. When my old man drank too much and wrote a marriage contract, it was just a joke after drinking, and it shouldn't be true. Of course, I know you won't be willing to let you go like this, which also makes our Lin family look too impolite. Alright, you keep the marriage contract and I'll give you 2 million. This money will be enough for you to live a good life for the rest of your life. Mrs. Lin raised her hand to signal, and butler Luo took out a box and opened it on the coffee table. Inside was neatly stacked banknotes. Lee Myukin suddenly felt a bit amused. Did you work hard to come here for 2 million? If I agree today, I won't be laughed to death by the immortal sects in the world. A disciple of the Heavenly Capital sect, worth only 2 million under the 10,000 Immortals sect. Mr. Lin didn't show his face, I don't know what his original intention was. Mrs. Lin is throwing money at people again. Breaking out was originally a way to settle the dust, but now it has become increasingly unclean. 2 million yuan. Lee Myukin gently patted the armrests of the chair worth over 20 million yuan under his buttocks. The Lin family is really rich. Mrs. Lin thought the price was too low and sneered, we don't have much cash at home. If you don't like it, I can write you another 3 million checks for a total of 5 million. How about that? Lee Myukin shook his head and looked indifferent. Mrs. Lin frowned slightly and said, 10 million. Lee Myukin still remained silent. Steward Luo angrily said, Young man, don't be disrespectful. If one's heart is not strong enough, snakes will swallow elephants. Be careful not to earn a life flower. Lee Myukin glanced at Butler Luo and then at Mrs. Lin, asking, "Is this threatening me?" "I guess so," Mrs. Lin said lightly, as if agreeing to the words of Manager Luo. "Madam, you may regret doing this." "Regret?" Mrs. Lin smiled, "Hee, I'd like to see how you make me regret it." Lee Myukin stood up, took out the yellowed paper from his pocket, spread it out on the table, and spread it flat. Mrs. Lin's eyes lit up and she said, "That's right. Young people need to understand the big picture and the importance. Some things are destined not to belong to you, but money is something that can truly change your destiny." She was about to reach out for it when Lee Myukin pressed his hand onto the paper. "Does madam know what I'm doing here today? I have always believed that a person's fate must be in their own hands and cannot be manipulated by others. Even my grandfather cannot dictate my marriage. Therefore, I came to withdraw today." Mrs. Lin was momentarily taken aback, then sneered contemptuously. The young man had a good face, so she could find a step down. She could understand. Lee Myukin folded the paper back up gently and slowly, neatly, and then put it back into his pocket. "But now, I don't plan to quit. If you want to quit, let Lin Shangyi tell me." Mrs. Lin and Butler Luo suddenly changed their colors and said, "Lee Myukin, do you know what you're doing?" Lee Myukin ignored it and walked away without looking back. Watching Lee Myukin leave, Lin Furen trembled with anger. She vaguely realized that she might have made a big mistake. "Madam, should we stop him?" asked the butler Luo. Mrs. Lin waved her hand and said, "Don't make trouble in the mansion. The old man shouldn't know about this." "Old man, would you really approve of this marriage?" "The old man values his reputation more than his life. If he knew that Lee Myukin had arrived, he would definitely force Manqing to marry him." "I won't marry my daughter to a poor beggar, never." Mrs. Lin gritted her teeth. "Madam, do you want to?" Butler Luo gestured, "I'll have someone handle this kid." Mrs. Lin remained silent for a moment and said, "Don't cause any harm. Teach me a lesson and drive me out of Hecheng. Most importantly, bring back the engagement that the old man personally wrote." She stood up slightly tired and walked towards the stairs, then suddenly turned back and said, "Oh, by the way, give him that 2 million. This is what I promised. We can't let anyone say that our Lin family is stingy and ask him never to step into Hecheng again." "Don't worry, madam, I'll go handle it right away." Butler Luo looked at a box of banknotes on the table with a hint of greed in his eyes and murmured, "He won't appear in Hecheng again." Lee Myukin left the Lin family villa and headed straight to Lingshan Lake in the western suburbs, where his grandfather's grave was located. He grew up with his grandfather and lived in old houses in the western suburbs, making a living by picking up garbage. At the age of 7, my grandfather suddenly passed away. Because he didn't have money to buy a cemetery, he could only secretly bury his grandfather's bones on the wasteland by the Lingshan Lake. There was no one to care about it, and no one would ask them for money. Lingshan Lake is very large and out of reach. He arrived at the wasteland where his grandfather was buried. Looking from here, the lake's surface was filled with steam and water vapor, like a fairyland. In the reed marshes of the wasteland, there are people fishing. The fishing line is very long, and the float is almost invisible. When passing by the person, Lee Myukin immediately realized that he was not an ordinary person, nor was he really fishing. This person is operating his true qi, with heat emanating from his body, while at the same time, the spiritual energy of the surrounding lakes and mountains is also converging towards him. This is a master, at least his kung fu has reached the point of transforming energy. However, there is clearly a serious internal injury on the body, which is being treated with the help of the spiritual energy of the lake and mountains. Lee Myukin did not expect to meet a master of energy transformation when he first arrived at Hecheng. It is rare to see someone who can transform energy into martial arts in the human world. Of course, in the eyes of Tiandu disciples, this is nothing. Only after transforming one's strength can one become a master, and only then are they qualified to embark on the journey to the heavenly capital. However, very few can climb the heavenly capital peak. Tiandu Peak, the ancestral home of the immortal sect and all the immortal sects in the world. In the battle between immortals and demons, 100,000 sword immortals set up a 10,000 immortal sword formation on Tiandu Peak to fight against extraterrestrial demons and protect human peace. This is a place that truly overlooks the world, and it is not something that ordinary people can go to. Li Mukin, on the other hand, climbed to Tiandu Peak at the age of 7. He was not interested in the anglers by the lake and hurried past before kneeling down at his grandfather's grave. After more than a decade, recalling the memories of childhood, I couldn't help but feel 1,000 emotions. Grandpa's kind face appeared before me, and Li Mukin's sorrow came from it. He said in a mournful voice, "Grandpa, my unfilial grandson has come back to see you." With a mournful voice, walking with the wind, passing through the reed marshes, wandering and sobbing on the broad lake surface. He knelt in front of the grave for a long time, silently recounting his experience of practicing with Yunyangzi at Tiandu Peak. Finally, he also mentioned the engagement of the Lin family and requested forgiveness from his grandfather. "The Lin family is too arrogant, we have to teach them a lesson." "But Grandpa, don't worry, I know you must have a friendship with Mr. Lin, otherwise there wouldn't be that engagement. No matter what the outcome is, I will repay him a favor." At this moment, 5 sneaky figures appeared on the wasteland and quickly approached Li Mukin. One of the big guys pointed at Li Mukin and asked, "Is that him?" Another person said, "That's right, big brother. I've been watching him since he came out of the Lin family." The big guy approached the solitary tomb and carefully looked at Li Mukin. "Little Taoist in tattered linen clothes, you shouldn't be wrong. Brothers, keep your hands and feet clean. As Lord Luo said, take down this kid and each person will cost 100,000 yuan. Li Mukin had long known that someone was following him, but he didn't care at all. In his eyes, it was just something like ants. He frowned when he heard the person say, "Mr. Luo." Finally kowtowed 3 heads in front of the grave, stood up, and turned to look at the incoming person. "Kid, you really chose a good place. After killing you, I dug a pit on the spot and buried it, saving even throwing corpses. Don't blame us, we also receive money and help others alleviate disasters. If you want to blame us, blame yourself for your poor fortune in offending those who shouldn't be offended." Chapter 3. Ninjas. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The big guy showed a hint of malice in his eyes and raised the knife in his hand. Before Li Mukin could move, a fishing line suddenly flew up from the reed swaying, passing through several tens of meters and shooting straight into the big man's wrist. The big guy let out a scream and the sharp knife fell to the ground. The fishing line kept disappearing, and as the thread turned in the air, it continued to pass through the wrists of the other 4 people. Like the big guy, the 4 of them screamed in agony. Then, the 5 people flew up into the sky like kites and landed heavily on the ground. The fishing line was thin and invisible, and they didn't understand what was going on. They just looked at Li Mukin in terror, as if they had seen a monster. They couldn't see clearly, but they couldn't escape Li Mukin's eyes. The thin fishing line shone white in the sunlight, accurately passing through the gap between the radius and ulna of the 5 people's wrists from a few tens of meters away. This internal and external effort has deeply grasped the essence of martial arts. Li Mukin knew it was the old man fishing by the lake who made the move, but he didn't need to be grateful for anything, so he didn't take a second look and only walked towards the big guy lying on the ground howling. The big guy saw Li Mukin approaching, as if seeing a fierce and evil spirit, his eyes were filled with fear. "You, what are you doing? Tell me, who asked you to come?" "No, no one. No one." Li Mukin squatted down and pinched his wrist. The fishing line was still in the flesh, and with a gentle tug, it was a heart-wrenching pain. The big guy was not seriously injured, but rather frightened and dared not resist, so he had to desperately beg for mercy. Yes, it's Mr. Luo. Which Luo Yi? Luo Mingsha, the steward of the Lin family. You really are the housekeeper Luo. Li Mukin's eyes showed a hint of killing intent. He has no grudges or grievances with someone surnamed Luo. How could he have made such a harsh move? It seems that it was the order given by Lady Lin. Do you not want me to be your son? In law. Even willing to take my life. Li Mukin just promised to repay Mr. Lin's kindness in front of his grandfather's grave. With this incident, the grudges and grievances are at odds, and no one owes anyone anymore. He remembered the dark clouds above the Lin family villa. He had originally wanted to remind them and even help them crack this spell, but now it seems unnecessary. Let them live and die on their own. The big guy also felt the murderous aura on Li Mukin's body and became even more afraid, repeatedly pleading for mercy. Young man, please forgive me. The old man who was fishing by the lake walked out of the reed marshes. Their hands are useless and they can't hold knives anymore. Let them go. Li Mukin also didn't want to kill in front of his grandfather's grave, but this kind of person only injured one hand, which was too cheap for him. Setting him back would only harm more people. He silently laid a secret hand on those people, and within 7 days, he would surely fall seriously ill. If one can repent an illness, then their heart will be pure and their nature will be nurtured. They will accumulate virtue and do good deeds, and their body will be able to recover. If you still want to do evil and keep the evil energy in your chest and gallbladder, even if you survive, you will still be a useless person. Get lost. Li Mukin watched as these people crawled away from the wasteland, then clenched his fists at the old man and said, "Thank you very much for your help." The old man looked up and down at Li Mukin a few times and said, "You can tell it's me who made the move, isn't it easy for you?" Li Mukin smiled and didn't say anything. "Young man, do you know why I helped you?" The old man glanced at the earthen mound and said, "There aren't many filial piety people these days, especially those from the next generation. Although you didn't cry just now, I can hear from your voice that your grief comes from the bottom of your heart. Your grandfather has a grandson like you, and if you have knowledge, you should be relieved." Li Mukin sighed lightly and said, "It's my unfilial behavior. I couldn't even afford a cemetery back then, so I had to bury my grandfather here." The old man was taken aback and said, "Isn't this the tomb site you deliberately chose?" Li Mukin shook his head and said, "To be honest, when I was a child, my grandfather and I relied on each other to make a living by picking up scraps. When my grandfather passed away, I was only 7 years old. Not to mention the cemetery, I couldn't even afford the cremation expenses, so I had to secretly bury my grandfather on this wasteland." The old man suddenly burst out laughing and said, "You have chosen a feng shui treasure land. This place gathers the earth chi spiritual hub within a radius of 10 miles. Looking at the entire Hechen, it is difficult to find a second good place that has not yet been occupied. It is also your grandfather and grandson who have done good deeds and accumulated virtue, and have this blessing." Li Mukin smiled slightly. Of course, he knew this place had good feng shui, but he really didn't know when he buried his grandfather. After the old man finished speaking, he turned around and went back to his fishing spot. As he walked, he said, "Young man, let me remind you that with the great development of Lingshan Lake, this wasteland is almost gone. You should think of a way to move your grandfather's grave as soon as possible." Li Mukin was taken aback, this was something he had not expected. "Thank you for reminding me, old man." Li Mukin didn't want to owe anyone a favor. The old man just intervened to save him, although it was unnecessary, it was kind-hearted. Now he has spoken out to remind him that this favor must be repaid. "Uncle, you have been injured by the scorching fire, and your yin and wei meridians have been damaged. If you don't receive timely treatment and delay the process, you may only harm the root cause." The old man paused for a moment, then came to his senses and exclaimed in surprise, "Do you understand medicine?" Li Mukin nodded and said, "I have some knowledge. Can you cure my injury?" You can give it a try. The old man's eyes showed hope. You can see my injury at a glance. My medical skills will never be poor. How will you treat it? Li Mukin took out a small pill and said, take this pill and use it to activate true qi for 2 weeks. After it's fully activated, I'll help you regulate your acupoints with a golden needle. Xiao Huandan was brought down from Tiandu Peak by him, which is extremely precious to the world, but it is nothing to Li Mukin. Moreover, the raw materials required for Xiao Huandan can also be found in the mortal world, but the difficulty lies in its refining method. The old man hesitated slightly. His status was prestigious, and there were not many people who wanted his life. If the young man in front of him was sent by the enemy, but he quickly put aside his hesitation, made up his mind, and chuckled, okay, then give it a try. Then he took the Xiao Huandan, swallowed it in his stomach, and sat cross-legged, starting to mobilize his true qi to circulate around the heavens. Li Mukin couldn't help but admire the old man's honesty, as he was very willing to make friends with such people. In no time, the old man's head was covered in white mist, steaming like boiling hot air. At this moment, the reed bushes suddenly swayed, and a figure flew out of them with extremely fast body movements. With a whoosh, several cold lights flew out and headed straight towards the 3 large holes in the old man's chest. Li Mukin had long noticed someone hiding in the reeds, their breath extremely concealed. It's just unrelated to him, so I haven't been taking care of it. At this moment it was discovered that they had come to ambush the old man and wanted to launch a surprise attack. But looking at that person's move, at most it's just the peak of dark energy, not as good as the old man fishing. The method of hibernation is a bit of a trick. The old man clearly noticed the incoming person, exhaled and spoke loudly, clapping 3 times in a row, and hitting the incoming hidden weapon. Those hidden weapons circled in the air and flew back into the hands of the man in black. Humph. It's another ghost from Japan. The old man stood up, young man, hurry up. This is a Japanese ninja. Although his martial arts are sparse, his methods are strange and he came towards me. I'm injured and I can't fight or protect you. Li Mukin suddenly realized that it was ninjutsu, no wonder the dormant breath was so secretive. But just a ninja, he didn't see it in his eyes. Uncle, hello. Good luck, turn your true qi. Don't waste your medicinal power. Leave this person to me. He took a step forward and stood in front of the old man. The old man was shocked and worried, saying, young man, I know you have magical skills, but this is a life and death struggle. These Japanese wave ghosts are all killing machines. It's okay. 2 short words, so powerful and confident. Okay, be careful. The old man chose to believe and sat down to continue meditation. The black-clad ninja missed a single blow and dared not attack rashly. In terms of strength, he was not as good as the old man, so he kept lurking until the old man took medicine to heal his injuries before taking action. Kid, it's best for you not to interfere in the matter between me and Qian Kuan's old dog. Get out of the way, I'll give you a way out. The man in black spoke in stiff Mandarin. Li Mukin remained motionless. Then let me see to what extent Japanese ninjutsu has improved now. The man in black frowned. He was afraid of Qian Kuan, and how could he ever take this young man seriously? Seeing that Qian Kuan had already settled down like an old monk, he rushed forward. Kid, you'll find your own way. Ninjutsu, with its strong and ghostly body techniques, rose and fell in front of Li Mukin, and his sword drew a dazzling white line in his hand. He seemed to see the scene of a young man's head landing and blood gushing out from his neck. However, the man in black saw the young man lift his foot, and his footwork seemed not to be fast. At least his naked eye could clearly see the process of lifting his leg out, without even a trace. However, this kick happened to be 1 point faster than his sword. Just before the sword light was about to touch the boy's neck, the boy's foot touched his stomach first. He felt his abdomen tighten and his body quickly retreated, falling heavily to the ground. He tried to stand up, but as soon as he struggled, his bones creaked and his ribs and spine were shattered. Without even the opportunity to use ninjutsu to escape, the man in black lay powerless on the ground, with anger, despair, regret, and fear in his eyes. He looked at the young man in front of him, and his bloodshot lips moved, saying the last sentence before his death. You, yes, who? Chapter 4. Reunion of Old Friends. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Qian Kun suddenly opened his eyes and looked at the young man ahead in shock. Although he is operating his true chi, he has not yet settled down. Faced with Japanese ninjas, how could he not be on guard and bet his treasure on a young person? One move. Killed the ninja who had already reached the late stage of the dark power with just one move. What amazing power this is! Not to mention being injured, it is impossible to achieve it even during the peak period before the injury. Could it be that this young man has already arrived at the Grandmaster? But at his age it is said that one step further above the Master, one can travel back and forth to the innate world. Once one enters the innate world, one can return to old age and rejuvenate. Is it Qian Kun couldn't contain his wild thoughts? Suddenly, Li Mukin shouted, the duration of Xiao Huan Dan's medicinal power is limited. What are you still daydreaming about? Qian Kun woke up as if from a dream, quickly closed his eyes, and once again stimulated his true chi. This time, there were no more distractions. 2 hours later, Qian Kun finally opened his eyes. He is completely relaxed and full of energy. I haven't felt this way for many years since I was injured. Qian Kuncho arched his hand to Li Mukin and said, I don't know how to address this master. My name is Li Mukin, not a great master. Is it a person from a Taoist sect? I guess so. So it's Li Dao Chang. We haven't mentioned becoming a monk, so there's no need to call me a Taoist priest. Just call my name. This. Seeing what Li Mukin said about nature, Qian Kun was deeply moved by the fact that a master indeed lived a carefree life, unlike those people in the world who strive for fame and fortune, practice martial arts for a lifetime, and just call him Grandmaster for the sake of others. Then I'll rely on my old age to sell off, call you brotherly, and call me brother. How about that? That's okay, Li Mukin said nonchalantly. Now I'm going to give you a golden needle to pass through your acupoints and open up your yin meridian. Qian Kun's eyes lit up and he said, thank you, brotherly. Li Mukin asked Qian Kun to sit down and pick up his fishing line from the ground. I don't have a needle on me, so I'll borrow your fishing line for a while, he said. Gently pinch the fishing line with your fingers and cut it into 13 sections. Then he pinched one of them, lightly flicked his finger, and the fishing line shot out like a needle, piercing into Qian Kun's Tianshu acupoint. Then came the second and third fishing threads. Soon, all 13 fishing threads pierced the 13 acupoints like needles, varying in depth, while the tails were stiff and trembling uncontrollably. Qian Kun was stunned by the incredible needlework. He just exerted his inner strength and threw the fishing line out, piercing the wrists of several thugs. He looked clever, but compared to Li Mukin, he was far behind. Not to mention the accuracy of acupoint insertion, let's talk about the soft and collapsed fishing line. Even after leaving the hand, it can still be as firm as a needle, pouring the true chi into it and solidifying without dispersing, which is unheard of. And the order and techniques of these 13 acupoints. Is it the legendary 13 needles of the ghost sect? Qian Kun finally believed that he had met a noble person today, and it was likely the luckiest time in his life. Li Mukin was skilled in technique and quickly completed a golden needle piercing through the acupoint. He pulled out all the fishing lines and threw them away, clapped his hands and said, all right, your injuries are basically fine. Based on your foundation, take good care of yourself for about 6 months. If you want it fast, I'll give you a prescription to go back and eat for half a month. After half a month, I'll give you another injection and you'll recover. Qian Kun was greatly shocked and grateful, saying, I have been injured for nearly 10 years, and I have been at a loss to seek help from famous doctors all over the world. I didn't expect Brother Li to be cured of his illness with just one move. Brother is truly a divine being. Li Mukin gave him several names of traditional Chinese medicine, instructed him on the usage and dosage, and asked him to go back and take the medicine according to the prescription. He then asked, I will give you an injection in half a month. How can I find you? Qian Kun said, my house lives in Qiantang. I'll come to Hecheng to pick you up. Please leave me a phone number. Li Mukin took out the Nokia elderly phone that had been used for over a decade and exchanged numbers with Qian Kun. Before parting ways, Li Mukin saw Qian Kun pondering as if he had something to say, and asked, is there anything else that Mr. Qian has to do? Qian Kundo said, the Lin family in Hecheng is also considered a prestigious family. I wonder if there is any misunderstanding between my younger brother and the Lin family. I also have some friendship with Lin Shangyi. If necessary, I can become a lobbyist. No need, Li Mukin answered very decisively. It's just a small matter, I can solve it myself. Qian Kun wanted to say something more, but ultimately he didn't say it. He was well aware that the small things mentioned by Li Mukin may not necessarily be small things for the Lin family. As he watched Li Mukin leave, he let out a sigh and said to himself, Lin Shangyi, you have offended such an expert. You can only seek your own blessings. Leaving Lingshan Lake, Li Mukin returned to his childhood residence. Unfortunately, more than a decade had passed and the world had already changed. The old dilapidated houses were gone, replaced by neat high-rise buildings, and the dirty village roads had become clean roads. Li Mukin stood on the street, looking at the row of clean and tidy shops, unsure where he used to live. He was about to leave when a girl came out of the restaurant across from him. Li Mukin felt familiar with her, and the girl stood there in a daze when she saw him. For a long time, the girl timidly asked, Brother Mu Chen. Li Mukin's heart skipped a beat and he exclaimed in surprise, are you Lilac? You are really Brother Mukin. The girl jumped up in excitement and rushed to him, making a hugging gesture. Suddenly, she realized something was wrong and her pretty face turned red. Brother Mukin, where have you been all these years? Brother Ma and I miss you so much. The girl named Dingxiang was Li Mukin's childhood playmate. At that time, the two families were neighbors who made a living by picking up garbage. There was also an orphan named Ma Shan who lived in the same courtyard. Dingxiang is 2 years younger than Li Mukin, while Ma Shan is 2 years older than him. He often considers himself an elder brother and takes good care of the two of them. I haven't seen her for over a decade, but Lilac's appearance has changed greatly. As the saying goes, when a woman grows up, she becomes more and more beautiful, just like the dirty and black girl she used to be when she was a child. Fortunately, Li Mukin achieved success in his cultivation. Although he grew up, he was not eroded by the wind and rain of society. His childhood memories can be seen in his voice, face, and smile, which is why he was recognized by Dingxiang. At first, Li Mukin did not recognize Dingxiang until Dingxiang called out, Brother Mukin. Thinking of her childhood memories, Li Mukin's heart warmed and she said, I miss you all too. Hey, where was the yard we used to live in? Long time for demolition. Dingxiang laughed, Brother Mu Chen, you haven't come back for many years and you don't even recognize him. The city has changed a lot now, it's the same every year. Unfortunately, that house isn't ours, otherwise we can share a large amount of demolition fees. Li Mukin nodded and realized that the old house had been demolished, so he didn't even think about it. Have you all been doing well these years? It's pretty good. Ma Shange works as a manager in a bar, he's very imposing. Oh, this guy has become a manager, isn't it easy? Li Mukin sighed, and you? I got into college and I'm still working hard to earn tuition fees. Dingxiang felt a bit shy and pointed to the small restaurant, saying, "Well, I work there during the day and occasionally work part-time at Ma Shan Ge's bar at night." "Mu Chen, you haven't eaten yet. I'll take you to dinner." Without hesitation, he pulled Li Mukin towards the small restaurant. Li Mukin didn't refuse either, he happened to be hungry. The owner of the restaurant was a chubby middle-aged man who looked kind and honest. Li Mukin felt relieved. The boss heard that it was a friend of Ding Xiang who had been separated for many years. He personally instructed the kitchen to cook a few dishes and even gave her a half-day off to accompany Li Mukin after eating. While eating, Li Mukin listened to the lilacs chattering about their lives over the past decade. "Brother Mu Chen, don't just listen to me. What about you? How have you been living these years? What kind of job are you doing now?" Li Mukin couldn't say anything about his cultivation, and even when he talked about lilacs, he didn't understand. He could only avoid the importance and say lightly, "I don't have a job." "Oh, this is it." Ding Xiang felt a bit embarrassed and looked at Li Mukin's clothes, but couldn't help but ask with concern, "Are you still?" Li Mukin couldn't help but smile. "This girl thought I was still picking up trash. I have been studying in the mountains for these years, and just finished my studies. Don't worry, I will soon make a lot of money. My lilac sister has already been admitted to college, and your tuition and living expenses will be covered by me in the future." Ding Xiang smiled happily and said, "You and Ma Shange both say that. All right, I know you both do big things. I can earn my tuition myself, so you should do your big things well." Li Mukin also smiled, thinking that this girl was too cute, just as innocent and kind as 13 years ago. Ding Xiang said she would take him to the bar in Mashan tonight, maybe she could help him find a job in the bar. That bar is one of the largest bars in Hecheng, and in the eyes of Ding Xiang, Mashan is also considered a figure there. Finding a job for Li Mukin is definitely not a problem. Chapter 5. The Anger of Mr. Lin. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The master of the Lin family, Lin Shangyi, has always been a bit restless recently. He has a bad appetite and cannot sleep soundly. He has always lived a regular life, learned some internal martial arts in his early years, and practiced Tai Chi and 8-section brocade all year round. Although he is over 80 years old, his body has always been good. His personal doctor said that his heart is even healthier than that of ordinary young people. "I don't know what's going on, but during this period, I have clearly felt my body is weak, and even a slight movement makes me feel powerless." He thought his deadline was approaching, so he planned to take advantage of the fact that there was still one breath left and arrange his affairs carefully. The most important one is the marriage of the granddaughter. That kid from the Li family has been away for so many years, I don't know what's going on. In the evening, Lin Shangyi is used to going out for a walk, but today he didn't walk much and couldn't move anymore. "Master, let's go back," said the butler Lin Chanming who was following him. There are several butlers in the Lin mansion, and Lin Chenming is the general manager. However, he does not care about specific affairs and is only responsible for Lin Shangyi's daily life and food. With Lin Chanming by his side, Lin Shangyi felt at ease, and everyone in the Lin mansion was also at ease. Cicada chirping, "Have you been following me for over a decade?" Lin Chanming was taken aback for a moment, wondering why Lin Shangyi suddenly mentioned this. "Yes, it's been 16 years. 16 years have passed, and you have also grown old," Lin Shangyi sighed. "People can't resist aging." "What's wrong, sir? After all these years, you've been working hard with me. Have you ever thought about starting your own business?" Lin Chenming shook his head and said, "The master treats me well. Cicada Ming is willing to follow me left and right, without any hesitation." You've been overthinking." Lin Shangyi chuckled heartily, "I'm old and I'll have to leave sooner or later. If I leave, why don't you follow me?" "Master." Lin Shangyi waved his hand to stop Lin Chanming from continuing. "We are not outsiders, so let's not say those clichés. There is always a way to die, and there are good taboos. A few years ago, I bought a small island in the East China Sea, and it should have been developed almost. I know you don't want to be with ordinary people, so how about becoming a peach blossom island owner in the East China Sea? Lin Chenming hurriedly said, "Thank you very much, sir." "Don't rush to thank me," Lin Shangyi said. "I also want to ask for your help." "Sir, please speak up." More than 20 years ago, the Lin family had a great disaster, and I still remember it with lingering fear. Nowadays, the Lin family seems to be thriving, but there are not many internal and external troubles. Once I die, it is likely to erupt. I would like to ask for your help. Within 3 years after my death, you must protect the safety of my descendants in the Lin family. Don't worry, sir. This is exactly what I should do. There's one more thing, there's someone named Li Mukin. Lin Shangyi paused and turned to say, "Let's go. I'll explain this matter to you in detail when I go back." The two of them walked back and arrived at the entrance of the villa area. When the security guard saw the old man returning, he bowed and said, "Did the old man come back so early today?" Lin Shangyi has always been easygoing when dealing with subordinates, smiling and saying, "I'm old and can't walk anymore." The security guard said, "Mr. Lin treats us servants and poor relatives from the countryside so well. He is a great person. My mother has told me since childhood that good people can live 100 years. Lin Shangyi laughed heartily and said, "There's no such thing as 100 years old. No matter how loudly you flatter me, you can't change the fate of this old horse." Suddenly thinking of something, he turned his head to look at the security guard and asked, "What did you just say about poor relatives?" The security guard said, "Isn't it common for poor people to come to our place to visit relatives? You even told us to be polite to them, didn't you forget? There's also a little Taoist coming today." Lin Shangyi was very happy and patted the security guard's shoulder. "You did the right thing. When you are poor, you cannot be short of ambition, and when you are rich, you cannot forget your roots. Accumulate virtue and do good deeds. After 3 generations, your descendants will also be a wealthy family." The security guard smiled foolishly and said, "Rich people don't dare to think about it. Little rich people are fine, hee hee." Lin Shangyi was about to leave when he suddenly remembered something. He was stunned for a moment, then turned around and asked, "You just said about a little Taoist, what kind of little Taoist?" The security guard said, "Today there is a young man dressed like a Taoist who came to see you by name and said he is your relative. He seems to be called Li Shichen." "What did you say his name is?" Lin Shangyi put away his smile and asked sternly. The security guard didn't know why Lin Shangyi suddenly became unhappy. He was startled and said, "His name is Li Mu Cheng, yes, his name is Li Mucheng." The butler Luo received him. "Where are people? Let's go." Lin Shangyi was furious and shouted, "Call me Luo Mingsha." The security guard's heart skipped a beat. The old man from the Lin family is usually kind and amiable, but once he initiates an attack, no one is not afraid. Is this person surnamed Li a scammer? Alas, it has angered the old man. It seems that he is going to have bad luck and has also implicated manager Luo. Lin Qiusheng didn't know what had happened at home, so the old man hurriedly called him home. Recently, the business situation has been constantly changing, which has made him very anxious. He really doesn't care about his family matters at all. Returning to the old man's residence, his wife Yan Huimin, son Lin Yun, cousin Lin Lifeng, and nephew Lin Xiaoheng had already arrived. Apart from his daughter Lin Manqing, who was studying in Qiantang, and his nephew Lin Xiaoping, who was studying abroad, the main members of the Lin family had all arrived. Lin Qiusheng felt that the atmosphere was a bit off. After he entered the door, no one greeted him, even his wife remained silent, and everyone remained silent. The old man sitting on the sofa appeared calm, but there was a wave of anger on his face, indicating that he had just gone berserk. Did the recent setbacks in business let the old man know? Dad, what's going on? Lin Qiusheng asked nervously. I have to ask your mother. In law, the old man suddenly became angry and spoke in a thunderous voice. You ask her what good thing she did. Mrs. Lin trembled with fear, lowered her head, and began to sob. Lin Qiusheng couldn't understand why his father was so angry, so he had to walk over and ask his wife. Mrs. Lin cried while hiding some details about what happened during the day. I think giving him 2 million won't treat him unfairly. He has never met our Manqing before, so he came to our door like this. Manqing definitely can't accept it. Besides, how can our daughter from the Lin family marry a poor boy from the mountains? This has spread. Lin Qiusheng understood. Of course, he knew about his daughter's engagement since she was young, but he never took it to heart and thought it was a joke. I didn't expect that after so many years, people would really come knocking on me. You said you're the same, why didn't you just tell Dad and make a statement? Isn't Dad feeling unwell lately? I think we shouldn't bother him with this small matter. And the engagement was made by Dad back then. Dad is a face-saving person, so there are some things that we should be children to share his worries with. Mrs. Lin's words were all reasonable and could be said to be impeccable. Coupled with her sobbing expression, they drew sympathy from the people present. Lin Qiusheng also felt that his wife did the right thing, and his father was a bit old and confused. But he didn't dare to contradict his father and looked at Tang Jielin for help. Lin Lifeng is his uncle's son. Because his uncle died early, the old man felt guilty, so sometimes speaking in front of him is even better than Lin Qiusheng. Lin Lifeng coughed lightly. Yeah, uncle, what Huimin said makes sense. Not to mention that this profession is not official, but to say that the two of them have never met before, how can Manqing accept it? You don't know Manqing's temper. Lin Qiusheng looked gratefully at his cousin and felt that he was helping to speak. It should be almost enough, so he took a step forward and said, Dad. Unexpectedly, just as he spoke, Lin Shangyi suddenly stood up, grabbed the teapot on the table, and smashed it out with force. With a crisp sound, the purple clay pot fell into thin pieces. Everyone was stunned. This purple clay teapot is made by a famous family, expensive, and also the beloved item of the old man. Even the purple clay teapot was broken, which shows how angry the old man is in his heart. No one dares to speak now. Poor kid. Lin Shangyi sneered, what's wrong with the poor? Looking up the family tree for 3 generations, who hasn't been poor before? Your old Yan family hasn't been poor before. I, Lin Shangyi, was also poor back then. When I was in trouble, I couldn't even have enough to eat. If I had to be like you all, could I marry your mother? Master, don't get angry, it's not worth it, Lin Chanming, standing behind Lin Shangyi, whispered. It's not that I'm angry, it's that these unscrupulous people are too disrespectful. Lin Shangyi pointed trembling fingers at the people in the living room, I don't have much time left. If I leave, who can you take on such a big family business? If you drive away Li Mukin, you will regret it. Dad. Lin Qiusheng didn't understand the relationship between whether he could handle his family business and this person named Li Mukin. The old man was confused, but he didn't dare to say that. He only asked, what should we do so that you can calm down? Find, mobilize everyone, don't bring them back, Mr. Lin pointed at Lin Qiusheng. Don't be the head of this family anymore, and also, let your mother. Law go back to Meicheng. This last sentence almost made Yan Huimin collapse on the ground. Chapter 6. Miss Lin's Family. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Dingxiang called Ma Shan and excitedly chattered on the phone about meeting Li Mukin. After hanging up the phone, she happily told Li Mukin. Brother Mu Chen, Brother Ma Shan said that your work package is on him. Oh. Li Mukin nodded uncontrollably, he just didn't want the passion that brushed the lilac. Dingxiang kept staring at Li Mukin. Li Mukin said, what are you looking at? Are there any flowers on my face? Ding Xiang chuckled and said, Brother Mu Chen, you can't go to work like this. You're like a Taoist. I'll take you to get a haircut. Without hesitation, he took Li Mukin to the barber shop and allowed Tony to tidy up his hair. He cut Li Mukin's long hair, which he had been raising for over a decade, into short, spirited hair. Ding Xiang took him to the mall again to buy a few clothes. Li Mukin, who had changed his clothes and hairstyle, suddenly transformed from a poor Taoist in a mountain village to an urban spirit young man. Ding Xiang saw the refreshed Li Mukin and blushed slightly. She whispered, Brother Mukin is so handsome. Suddenly, he frowned and let out a sigh of regret. Li Mukin said strangely, What's wrong? Ding Xiang said, Unfortunately, the material of this outfit is too poor and doesn't match Brother Mu Chen. Sigh, it's all my fault for earning too little money. Li Mukin chuckled and lightly pinched Ding Xiang's face, just like when she was a child. She said, Silly girl, you are still a student now. Your task is to study hard and think about earning money. Don't worry, I'll leave the money to my brother. Ding Xiang nodded vigorously. I don't know why, but she has an inexplicable trust in Brother Mu Chen, who hasn't seen him for over a decade and suddenly appeared today. Then, Li Mukin was pulled by lilacs and strolled the streets all afternoon. Lilacs danced and chattered along the way, introducing him to the changes in Hecheng over the past decade. Brother Mu Chen, look over there. That used to be the garbage dump, where we often come to pick up garbage. Now it has become a CBD, Ding Xiang pointed to the high-rise buildings ahead and said. That shopping mall over there is the former paper mill. Do you remember, Brother Mu Chen? When I was a child, I was bullied in the alley behind the factory. You and Brother Ma helped me fight. You two fought against 4 or 5 of them, it was so imposing. Li Mukin certainly remembers, but the main person who fought that time was Ma Shan. At that time, he was also young, and Ma Shan was 2 years older than him, and he was also quite big. He remembered that Ma Shan had been beaten up and his face was swollen, but he refused to let go and forced the group of wild children to retreat. Thinking of these, Li Mukin unconsciously smiled and felt an indescribable joy in her heart. Ding Xiang, you have a great memory. You were only 4 years old at that time, and you still remember these things. No wonder you were able to get into such a good university. Li Mukin already knew that Ding Xiang had been admitted to the best school in Nanjiang Province, Nanjiang University. I don't know why, I remember everything about being with you, said Ding Xiang happily. Strolling all the way until evening, before going to the bar, Ding Xiang took him to the complex for a big meal. Li Mukin felt sorry for the money Ding Xiang earned from working, but Ding Xiang insisted on going. He said that even if Brother Mukin came, he would be willing to spend all the money. Li Mukin had no choice but to follow her, secretly swearing in his heart that he would take good care of this girl in the future, repay her thousands and thousands of times, and make her happy for a lifetime. The entrance of the Blue Bridge Bar is filled with luxury cars, and the flashing neon lights have a psychedelic color in the city's night sky. When passing by those luxury cars, Li Mukin felt no waves in his heart because he didn't know any of them. He saw Ma Shan from a long distance, dressed in a straight suit, standing at the entrance of the bar waving at them. Apart from his tall stature, Ma Shan's appearance did not change much, so Li Mukin recognized him at a glance. Brother Ma Shan, Li Mukin took the initiative to greet him. Ma Shan reached out his hands and forcefully placed them on Li Mukin's shoulder, looking up and down. Good kid, you've grown up, you've grown taller, you're quite handsome. Where have you been all these years? I became a teacher and learned art in the mountains, said Li Mukin. Ma Shan didn't ask him what he was learning, so he patted his chest and said, if you come, don't leave. Don't worry, my brother will cover you up in the future. I'll have a bite to eat, and I won't let you go hungry. Li Mukin smiled and said, thank you, Brother Ma Shan. You're welcome, we're brothers. Let's go, I'll take you inside for a walk. Ma Shan brought Li Mukin and Ding Xiang into the bar, while walking, introducing the situation of the bar to Li Mukin. Along the way, many people greeted Ma Shan, including bar staff and guests. It can be seen that Ma Shan is indeed doing well here, and he looks particularly happy. But Li Mukin was very clear that behind the glamour of Ma Shan, it was not that simple. From the moment we met, he noticed a slight subcutaneous blood stasis on Ma Shan's face and a slight delay in the meridian and qi movement on his body. It seems that Ma Shan is not just a floor manager here, he is likely watching the show. Brother Ma, you promised to arrange work for Brother Mu Chen, Ding Xiang reminded. I see, when did I ever back out on what Ma Shan promised? Ma Shan said, at least let Mu Chen familiarize himself with the environment first. Ding Xiang smiled happily. At this moment, I heard someone shouting from behind, Ma Shan. Li Mukin turned around and saw a bald man with a tattoo coming in from outside, heading straight towards Ma Shan. Ma Shan. When the three of them went upstairs, a bald man with a tattoo came down. Ma Shan greeted him with a smile and said, Hey, Brother Leopard, when did you come? Why didn't you say hello in advance? Brother, I can arrange it for you. Baldy leaned on his shoulder and said, Can you arrange a big private room for me, with the best wine and the best girl? I'll go pick up Mr. Lu now and come in a little while. Come on, it's all on me, Ma Shan said. Bald-headed, as he was about to leave, he suddenly saw a lilac beside Ma Shan and said, This girl is pretty good. She's new here. She's quite pure. Boss Lu likes this and will bring it to me later. Ma Shan said awkwardly, Brother Leopard, this is my sister who came to play, not the princess here. Sister. What kind of serious sister do you have, kid? Baldy chuckled, alright, that's settled. Ma Shan said, Brother Bao, this really doesn't work. Those surnamed Ma, don't be shameless. Don't think your sister Na's person and I dare not touch you. I'll say it again, send this little girl to my private room. Baldy glared at Ma Shan, put down his harsh words, and went out. Ma Shan suppressed his anger and looked at the bald figure with a cold snort. Ding Xiang was clearly frightened and her face turned a bit pale. Li Mukin said, Why don't we go? Ma Shan thought Li Mukin was scared and said, It's okay, this is Sister Na's place. They dare not act recklessly. If they really want to cause trouble, Ma Shan is not a vegetarian either. From childhood to adulthood, let alone anything else. Let's fight. Who have we ever been afraid of? Li Mukin could feel the unwillingness in Ma Shan's heart when he accompanied the bald man with a smile. He remembered when he was a child, Ma Shan had said more than once that he would definitely become the boss in the future, the kind of person no one dared to bully. Ma Shan wanted face and didn't let Li Mukin and Ding Xiang go, so he took them upstairs for a walk. Originally, according to Ma Shan's instructions, we opened a small private room for them to sing and relax. But Li Mukin always felt that bald guy would never give up easily. Because lilacs are so dazzling, it's hard to see a girl as pure as lilacs in a place like a bar where everything is polluted. He is not afraid, but he does not want the pure soul of cloves to be harmed or contaminated. Ma Shan actually loves face, and he doesn't want Ding Xiang to run into that bastard leopard again. He agrees to let Li Mukin leave with Ding Xiang first. They had just come downstairs when suddenly someone shouted. Lilac. Facing 2 men and 3 women, 5 young people walked into the bar. Ding Xiang saw one of the girls and exclaimed in surprise, Oh, Yao Lily, why are you? Yao Lily walked over with a smile and said, Ding Xiang, I didn't expect you to come here to play too. Didn't you get admitted to Nanjiang University? Come on, I'll introduce you to a senior sister. Really? Lilac was both surprised and delighted. Yao Lily pulled her over and pointed at another girl, saying, This is Miss Lin from the Lin family, Lin Manqing. Li Mukin was momentarily stunned when he heard the name. Lin Manqing, is there such a coincidence? He remembered that the woman's name written on the engagement left by his grandfather seemed to be Lin Manqing. Miss Lin Manqing. When the engagement is still in effect, it means that this is one's fiancé AE. Chapter 7. What You Can't Afford to Pay. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Li Mukin unconsciously glanced at her a few more times. It has to be said that Lin Manqing is very beautiful, and she has a special grace and calmness on her body. Practitioners are very sensitive to human temperament and inner spirit. Most people who come to the bar have a cloudy aura. Apart from the lilacs around them, only Lin Manqing is different from the others I see in the bar today, as if a cluster of hibiscus blooms in a pile of fallen flowers and willows. Lin Manqing also seemed to sense his gaze and frowned slightly. Miss Lin is so beautiful. Dingxiang says whatever comes to mind, not deliberately flattering. And Lin Manqing really deserves this praise. Yao Lili said, of course, Manqing is the #1 beauty in our city. Lin Manqing seemed accustomed to such compliments and didn't care. She just smiled at the lilac and said, "You're also very beautiful." Is Miss Lin studying at Nanjiang University? Dingxiang asked. Yes, I'm in law school, and you? I only got into the humanities experimental class this year. Oh, that's great of you, Lin Manqing gave a approving look. You don't need to call me Miss Lin. I'm 1 year older than you. You can call me my senior sister, or you can call me my senior sister. When you come to school in the future, feel free to come to me if you have anything. Thank you, senior. Dingxiang said happily. Yao Lili was busy introducing others to Dingxiang. When introducing, they specifically mentioned their identity and background to show off their uniqueness and their broad social circle. Through Yao Lili's introduction, Li Mukin learned that the person known as Zhang Gongzi, named Zhang Yiping, was the son of the chairman of Yongqing Group. The girl standing side by side with Lin Manqing is called Zhang Jia, and her family is also a director of Yongqing Group. Finally, there was a man named Zhou Su who had been standing by Zhang Yiping's side all along. His family was in the clothing business, and according to Yao Lili, the business was quite large. After Yao Lili finished introducing her, Dingxiang pulled Ma Shan and Li Mukin over and also introduced them. When they heard that Ma Shan was the floor manager here, the few people were quite enthusiastic and even asked Ma Shan to arrange a private room for them. Then there is Li Mukin. Yao Lili saw that although Li Mukin was dressed in average clothes, he was still handsome and had a great temperament. She asked, "Where is Mr. Li from?" Li Mukin said, "I'm still looking for a job." Yao Lili's face showed a hint of disdain and she said, "Looking for a job? Would you like Mr. Zhang to help me out?" Zhang Yiping said generously, "No problem, you can come to me anytime." But he neither told Li Mukin how to find him, nor gave him a business card, clearly insincere. Zhou Su's gaze revolved around the lilac, filled with eagerness. "Brother Zhang, since Dingxiang is Lily's classmate, why not play together?" Zhou Su said. Zhang Yiping certainly knows what Zhou Su wants to do. Taking a glance at the lilacs, the little girl was indeed very attractive, especially the pure taste, which was hard not to arouse people's hearts. But he has no thoughts about lilacs, he only cares about Lin Manqing, the Miss Lin family. Or rather, the vast industry of the Lin family is his true goal. If we can marry the Lin family, then Yongqing Group can take it to the next level. This is not only love, but also a political task. But it's not easy to get in touch with Lin Manqing. Fortunately, he has a sister from his own family, Zhang Jia, and Lin Manqing is his best friend, which gives him the opportunity to get close to each other. Upon learning that Lin Manqing had returned to Heqing today, Zhang Yiping immediately asked Zhang Jia to find a reason to invite Lin Manqing out. Zhou Su's family runs a clothing business and rents a venue in the clothing city under the Yongqing Group. He often follows Zhang Yiping and can be considered Zhang Yiping's little follower. Zhang Yiping doesn't mind giving him a hand with the woman that the little follower is interested in. "I have no objection," Zhang Yiping said, looking at Miss Lin. "Manqing, what do you think?" "Of course it's possible," Lin Manqing said as she took the clove's hand. "Let me tell you something about the school. Lin Manqing doesn't really like places like bars." If Zhang Jia hadn't said she was in a bad mood and insisted on asking her to accompany her, she wouldn't have come out to play. They had dinner at the club in Yongqing, and Zhang Jia said it was boring. Zhang Yiping suggested playing at the bar to find some excitement. Lin Manqing knew that Zhang Yiping wanted to pursue her, but she didn't call Zhang Yiping. The appearance of Ding Xiang happened to allow her to break free from Zhang Yiping's entanglement. She has a good impression of lilacs, they are very simple, and if she can be admitted to the humanities experimental class at Nanjiang University, she must be a diligent and intelligent person. Ding Xiang was originally hesitant, but when Lin Manqing said she wanted to talk about school, she felt a bit tempted to go. Li Mukin knew what she was thinking and said, "It's great, then let's play together." She said she wanted to go with them. Everyone else was stunned. "Did they call you?" Yao Lili muttered, "You're shameless." Only Lin Manqing smiled knowingly. For some reason, she felt that Li Mukin was a bit different. She couldn't say exactly how unique it was. "Who called you together?" "You're really shameless," Zhou Su said coldly. Yao Lili said, "Yes, Ding Xiang is my classmate. Zhang Gongzi and his team gave her face to play with us." "Who are you?" Zhang Yiping smiled and remained silent. Lilac felt a bit embarrassed and said, "How about it, forget it." Lin Manqing said, "All right, either let's play together or let's just leave. When we come out to play, what are the different levels?" Li Mukin glanced at her and said to himself, "This fiancé AE seems to be okay." "It's okay, let's play together," Zhang Yiping said generously. When he saw Lin Manqing speaking, he gave Zhou Su a glance and then said to Mashan, "Arrange the largest private room for me." "No problem," Mashan snapped his fingers. Zhang Yiping is also quite famous in the circle of the second generation of Hecheng. He has also come to the bar to play before, but it was arranged by the owner, Sister Na, and rarely came directly without making a phone call. There is also Miss Lin from the Lin family, who is a person who cannot be invited to carry a large sedan chair normally. Mashan felt that Li Mukin was very fortunate and met such a noble person on his first day. Although they look down on Li Mukin, so what? Their identity is displayed there, not to mention Li Mukin, who doesn't even have a job. As a manager, he is nothing in their eyes. If they were happy and introduced Li Mukin to a job, anything would be better than working as a waiter in a bar. After arranging the private room, Mashan went to work hard. Zhang Yiping wants to pursue Lin Manqing, which is their main purpose of coming out to play today. Since seeing the lilac, Zhou Su felt as if he had been mesmerized, his eyes fixed on the lilac. Lin Manqing kept talking while holding the lilac, and neither of them had a chance. Zhou Su suggested that if you have new friends today, please add them on WeChat. His goal, of course, was lilac, but in order to make it less obvious, he first approached Li Mukin and said, "Brother, add WeChat." "What is WeChat?" Li Mukin asked. Everyone else was stunned. "Brother, are you joking? You don't even know WeChat, do you?" Zhou Su's mouth curled up with a hint of anticipation. Ding Xiang quickly explained to Li Mukin, "Brother Mukin just came from the mountains." She didn't say it was okay, but this statement made people's faces even more contemptuous. "So it's a bumpkin from the mountains," Yao Lili said contemptuously. Zhang Yiping pretended to be generous and sat next to Li Mukin. "It's okay, who hasn't been there for the first time? Come on, take out your phone and let me teach you how to use WeChat." Li Mukin took out his phone from his pocket. "Wow!" Zhou Su's exaggerated voice rang out, "Nokia." "Huh, there's actually someone using Nokia." Laughter echoed from the private room. Even Lin Manqing couldn't help but smile. She had no ill intentions, just couldn't imagine how young people would get through these years with a Nokia. Even in remote mountain villages, smartphones have become popular. Zhang Yiping looked at his phone and said, "Brother, I can't help you anymore. Otherwise, you can sing us a song and I'll give you a new phone." He burst into laughter as he spoke. Zhou Su became even more enthusiastic and said, "Yes, just sing a mountain song from your mountains. I'll also buy you a new phone, the most expensive one. You can throw away this old one." He picked up Li Mukin's phone and pretended to throw it away. Li Mukin snatched it back with lightning speed, but Zhou Su didn't react at all. "It's damaged, you can't afford it." Zhou Su was enraged and said, "Haha, just this broken phone." He said, "I can't afford it, haha." Everyone else laughed along. Zhang Yiping patted Li Mukin's shoulder and said, "Brother, today you are the source of our happiness." Ding Xiang looked at everyone mocking Li Mukin, so anxious that tears welled up in her eyes. Lin Manqing couldn't bear to watch anymore. "Alright, do you want to have fun? If you don't play, you'll just leave." At that moment, the door of the private room was pushed open with a loud bang, and a bald man with a tattoo walked in, with 2 attendants behind him. "Oh, it's quite lively." The bald man glanced around, his gaze fixed on the lilac, and he smiled wickedly, "Little beauty, come with me, I'll give you a big red envelope." Chapter 8. Give you a chance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Who are you? Zhou Shijing was worried about not having the chance to show off in front of Dingxiang, so he stood up and pointed at the bald man, asking. The bald man sneered and gently flicked away Zhou Su's finger. "Kid, I advise you not to meddle in your own business." "What does meddling mean? This is our private room. What are you doing in here? Who are you?" Zhou Su pointed at the bald man again. Get out of here right now." The bald man suddenly reached out and grabbed Zhou Su's finger, twisting and turning it. Zhou Su let out a groan and knelt down, tilting his body in pain. "Kid, I hate people pointing at me the most." The bald man looked down at Zhou Su. "Who am I, right?" Pop, his other hand slapped Zhou Su heavily on the face. "Ah!" Yao Lili and Zhang Jie screamed in shock. Zhou Su knelt on the ground, his fingers tugging at his bald hand. With a slight struggle, the pain was unbearable. "Who am I, tell me to go, right?" Pop balding is another slap. Zhou Su's face is a bit swollen. Except for Li Mukin, everyone in the private room was foolish. These young gentlemen and young ladies have been pampered since childhood, and have never seen such a scene before. Li Mukin didn't expect that bald people would arrogantly come directly to someone else's private room to find someone, and now it's too late to take lilacs with them. And as soon as you leave, others may think you're being bullied, which may lead to constant trouble in the future, especially for Ma Shan. Working here may not be easy. So the solution to 100 is to subdue people. But Li Mukin didn't move. He wanted to see how people in the secular world handle such things, such as Zhang Yiping, the young master, and Lin Manqing, the young lady of the Lin family. Zhang Yiping knew he couldn't help but stand up. After all, he had seen the world before and was not too nervous. He stood up from the sofa and said to the bald man. "Brother, I don't know what happened, but you broke into my private room to demand someone and even hit my brother. Is that a bit excessive? Who are you so special about?" The bald man looked coldly at Zhang Yiping. "My name is Zhang Yiping, and my father is Zhang Zhenmao, the chairman of Yongqing Group. Everyone came out to play, give face, let go of my brother, and let this matter go today. Forget it." The bald man grabbed Zhou Su's finger with one hand and rubbed his bald head with the other. "Zhang Yiping, Zhang Zhenmao. Yongqing Group." The bald man murmured incessantly. "Young Master Zhang from Yongqing Group, right? Okay, I'll give you face." He finally let go of Zhou Su's hand. Zhou Su covered his fingers and retreated to Zhang Yiping's side, looking angrily at his bald head, but he dared not speak. Just when everyone thought it was over, the bald man pointed at the lilac and said. "I can release your brother, but I have to take this girl with me." Zhang Yiping frowned. He didn't want to offend such a thug for the sake of a chance encounter, but seeing Lin Manqing tightly holding onto the clove's hand seemed to have a protective intention, so he planned to become a hero once again. No, she's my friend, you can't take her away. Oh, that's enough men. That's enough men. The bald man gave Zhang Yiping a thumbs up, I'll give you face, but I don't know if anyone else will give it. She turned around and left. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Yao Lily patted her chest and said, I'm scared to death. How could I encounter such a person? It's still Mr. Zhang who is powerful and has a lot of face. He scared people away as soon as he reported his family name. Zhang Yiping was also a bit proud, sitting back on the sofa with a smile and casually saying, he's just a jerk. Zhou Su was slapped in the face and naturally felt unhappy. He said in a resentful voice, I must find someone to fix him. Zhang Yiping said, don't be too narrow-minded with such people. Just treat yourself like you've been bitten by a dog and come drink. Zhou Su took 2 sips of wine, but still didn't clear his grudge. He saw Li Mukin standing beside him as if nothing had happened, and as he looked at him, he became increasingly angry. He slammed his glass heavily onto the table. Damn it, I met a loser today, no wonder it's so unlucky. Li Mukin knew he was talking about himself, but he didn't mind. He believed that the bald man wouldn't just give up like this. It depends on what happens next, and whether the face of this young Master Zhang is of any use. Just as I thought about it, the private door was pushed open again. Which young Master Zhang has such a big face? I can't even be alone anymore. With the sound of words, a person walked in from outside. He was about 40 years old, with a big belly and a greasy face. From his chin to his neck, there was a long scar that trembled as he spoke, like a live centipede. Behind him, besides the bald tattooed man, there were 2 other people with straight bodies, different from ordinary thugs. As soon as Zhang Yiping saw the newcomer, his face changed and he shouted, Mr. Lu. Oh, it turns out to be young Master Zhang from Yongqing. If I had known that young Master Zhang was here, old Lu should have come over to toast long ago. Scarface picked up a bottle of wine from the table and glanced at it. Spade A, the wine is good, but unfortunately it's a girl's wine that doesn't taste enough. So, Leopard, go get my wine. The bald man agreed and went out, and soon brought a bottle of Maotai. Scarface took Maotai, poured 2 cups, took one himself, and handed the other cup to Zhang Yiping. It's not as foreign as your wine, but it tastes good enough. Men should drink this. Come on, Mr. Zhang, I'll toast you. Zhang Yiping hesitated a bit. The person in front of me is called Lu Hongyu, also known as Lu Daskar. He is engaged in logistics business and has cooperation with Yongqing Group. He used to be a gangster, and the logistics territory in his hands was all created by punching. When it comes to wealth, Yongqing is not worth it. But this person is very difficult to deal with, ruthless, and even Zhang Zhenmao, Zhang Yiping's father, dare not easily provoke. Mr. Lu, I don't drink strong liquor, Zhang Yiping declined. Lu Hongyu's face instantly darkened and he said, why not give face? No, it's not. Don't just drink it. Zhang Yiping knew that drinking this wine was not enough. He only hoped that after finishing this glass of wine, Lu Daskar would quickly leave. He didn't want to be with such a person for a minute. Okay, I'll drink. Zhang Yiping picked up his glass and drank it all in one gulp. Hey, that's right. Lu Hongyu watched him finish his drink and then looked at the few girls sitting on the sofa. After spinning around Dingxiang and Lin Manqing a few times, he laughed and said, Zhang Gongzi's good fortune is not shallow. How about dividing such a beautiful girl with me, Lao Lu? Zhang Yiping's face turned black and he said, Mr. Lu, they are all my friends. Hello friend, Zhang Gongzi and I are also friends. Friends, let's play together, huh? Mr. Lu, this really doesn't work. Lu Hongyu's face sank and he said, those surnamed Zhang, go back and ask your father if he dares to drink my wine and not give me face. Get out. Zhang Yiping trembled and dared not speak. He was well aware that if he spoke again, the outcome would likely be the same as Zhou Su. For a girl who met by chance, it's not worth it. Lu Hongyu sneered and walked up to Dingxiang and Lin Manqing, looking at them. It seemed difficult to make a choice. Finally, he made up his mind and said to Dingxiang, I like this kind of pure and innocent Lao Lu, little beauty. Come with me. Lin Manqing pulled the cloth over her back and stood up, saying, she can't come with you. If she doesn't come with me, then you're going with me. Lu Hongyu chuckled. Mr. Lu. Zhang Yiping called out, ready to reveal Lin Manqing's identity. He believed that no matter how brave Lu Hongyu was, he dared not touch Miss Lin from the Lin family. But before his words could be spoken, Lu Hongyu's backhand was like a big mouth. Zhang Yiping felt a buzzing sensation in his ears and a burning pain on his face. If you keep talking, I'll waste you. Lu Hongyu warned. Zhang Yiping wanted to say something more, but when he saw the terrifying scar on Lu Hongyu's chin, he hesitated. Lu Hongyu sneered and said to his bald head, Leopard, take these two women away. Baldy agreed and brought people up to catch Dingxiang and Lin Manqing. Suddenly someone said. Can you take it with you? Lu Hongyu turned around and only then noticed that there was still a young man in his 20s sitting in the corner of the sofa. At this moment, the young man slowly stood up and walked towards him. Give you a chance, kneel down now, kowtow to everyone here, and forget about this. The young man said a faint sentence. Did you leave chapter 9? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Everyone looked at Li Mukin like a fool. Grass, Li Mukin, are you sick? Brother Zhang is not fair about this matter. What are you trying to do? Do you want to kill us? Zhou Su scolded. Yao Lily also said, yeah, you're crazy. Don't implicate us. Zhang Yiping also wants to curse. Lu Hongyu's goal is Dingxiang and Lin Manqing, and as long as Lin Manqing reports her family background, Lu Hongyu will never dare to touch her. As for lilacs, what does it have to do with them? Originally, it was just a loss of face, but when Li Mukin said these words, he angered Lu Hongyu, and it would be a loss of life. Mr. Lu, we don't know this kid, it's none of our business, Zhang Yiping quickly cleared his mind. Lin Manqing originally thought that Li Mukin's words were not a good solution to the problem, but Zhang Yiping's words disappointed her. Li Mukin, don't come over, I'll handle this matter. Lin Manqing thought that if necessary, she would reveal her identity and move out her grandfather's name. But Li Mukin seemed ungrateful and smiled at her, saying, no need, just help me take care of Miss Dingxiang. He walked across from Lu Hongyu and blocked Dingxiang and Lin Manqing. Lu Hongyu looked coldly at Li Mukin and said, do you know who you're talking to? Li Mukin said, I don't know, all I know is that if you don't kneel down quickly and apologize, your legs will be gone. Seeking death. The bald man next to Lu Hongyu rushed over, waving his thick Qilin arm and punching Li Mukin in the face. A scream of surprise echoed at the scene, and everyone felt that Li Mukin was finished. However, Li Mukin only gently raised his hand and grabbed the bald fist. Bald struggled hard a few times, his fist as if it was clamped by iron pliers, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't break free. Li Mukin gave a gentle push and then flew out with his bald head, crashing into the coffee table with a loud bang. The wine bottles and glasses on the coffee table were shattered to pieces. Zhang Yiping and others were stunned. Lu Hongyu squinted his eyes and said, kid, I used to know kung fu. No wonder he's so crazy. He waved his hand and the two bodyguards behind him took a step forward. The bald man who fell to the ground also got up and, together with the two bodyguards, sandwiched Li Mukin in the middle. Lin Manqing couldn't help but speak out, be careful, there are many of them. Zhang Yiping looked at Lin Manqing's worried expression and felt jealous. At this moment, he wished that Li Mukin had been killed. At this moment, a charming voice suddenly sounded outside the door. Who is so bold as to dare to cause trouble at Blue Bridge? I saw a seductive woman walking in, wearing a tight qipao adorned with fragrant cloud gauze. Her figure was curvaceous and graceful, with a graceful and full figure. Her waist twisted like a snake, and her whole body exuded a mature taste like peach. Every step was charming, making men infatuated. Mashan followed the woman, holding a steel pipe that was about 1 meter long in his hand. Behind them, there are also several security personnel following. As they arrived, there began to be onlookers at the door. Who is this? Zhou Su asked quietly. She is Zhou Na, the owner of the Blue Bridge Bar. Outsiders call her Na Jie. In the upper echelons of our Huqing community, no one knows. Zhang Yiping lowered his voice. I heard that there are many wealthy people in Huqing who have fallen under her pomegranate skirt. Oh, isn't that Mr. Liu? Zhou Na smiled all over her face. What brings Mr. Liu here? Seeing Zhou Na coming, Lu Hongyu chuckled. Sister Na, you said I used to be stingy when I was spending money at your venue, but I couldn't even play with a girl anymore. How about this? I don't want this girl either. You stay with me for a night, and this matter will be over. A look of disgust flashed through Zhou Na's eyes, but a smile appeared on her face. Mr. Liu, I'm already quite old, so there's no better young girl. Alright, I'll treat you tonight, and you can choose the girls here. Also including her mother. Lu Hongyu pointed to the lilac. Zhou Na glanced at Dingxiang and said, she's not the princess here, I can't force anyone to do it. Li Mukin gave Zhou Na a surprised look. Mr. Liu, why don't you choose someone else? If there's nothing you like, I'll transfer people from other venues until you're satisfied. What do you think? Sister Na is bright enough. Lu Hongyu gave Zhou Na a thumbs up. But what, my old Lu has a stubborn temper and only takes a liking to this little girl. If I don't take care of her, I won't be able to eat well or sleep. Sister Na, teach me, what should I do? What does Mr. Liu want to do? Lu Hongyu's gaze carefree glanced at Zhou Na and said, I still said that. If Sister Na is willing to replace her, my old Lu will definitely be satisfied. What if I say no? Zhou Na put away her smiling face and said coldly. Lu Hongyu chuckled and said, there is another way, transfer the shares of your bar to me, and I will manage the venue. Of course, I will give you a good price. Zhou Na was taken aback and then giggled. Her smile trembled wildly, shaking the hearts of the men around her. Turns out Lu always likes my small business. Okay, I don't mind. But as you know, Mr. Liu, I'm not the only one involved in this transaction. Alright, I'll call Uncle Ming and if he agrees, I'll be fine. As soon as he heard Uncle Ming, Lu Hongyu's face changed and he chuckled, Sister Na, I was just joking. Ha ha ha, forget it. Let's forget about this today. Let's go. They are about to leave. Suddenly someone behind me said, can you leave? It was Li Mukin who was speaking. Lu Hongyu turned around and said, what do you want? Kneel down and kowtow to admit your mistake, or leave a leg behind, said Li Mukin. Lu Hongyu spread his hands and looked at Zhou Na, Sister Na, look, it's not that I'm not giving you face. Zhou Na frowned slightly. Ma Shan hurriedly said, Sister Na, this is my little brother named Li Mukin. Zhou Na nodded and said, so it's Ma Shan's brother. Alright, just give me face and forget about it. Li Mukin said coldly, why should I give you face? Zhou Na's face sank and she said, Ma Shan, what's wrong with you little brother? Ma Shan didn't expect Li Mukin to say this, Mukin, let's forget about today's matter. You can bring the lilac back first. Li Mukin raised his eyebrows and stared closely at Ma Shan, saying, Ma Shan Gu, I still call you brother because you have taken care of us before. Since childhood, I have respected you as a man and a hero. I remember you said you would never let anyone bully us Dingxiang girls. Now, if someone bullies Dingxiang girls, what should you do? Li Mukin didn't mean to force Ma Shan, he just wanted to see if Ma Shan was still the same as before and whether it was worth treating him as a brother. Ma Shan's eyes were a bit complicated. Brother, it's not that I'm cowardly. You don't understand what's going on here. Li Mukin remained silent and suddenly stepped forward to slap Lu Hongyu in the mouth. Lu Hongyu didn't expect him to suddenly take action, unprepared, and even the bodyguards around him looked bewildered. What are you still waiting for? Who will kill him? Lu Hongyu ordered. Ma Shan knew there was no way out, so he straightened the steel pipe and shouted, "Who dares to move?" Everyone was stunned. Lu Hongyu covered his face and pointed at Zhou Na, saying, "Sister Na, are you really going to have trouble with me?" Zhou Na also frowned tightly and said, "Ma Shan." Ma Shan said, "Sister Na, you have been kind to me over the years. As long as I have one more life, I will definitely repay you in the future. I apologize for today's incident." After speaking, the steel pipe swung and clanged, directly hitting the bald tattooed man's head. Li Mukin smiled and nodded. Not bad, it's still that Ma Shan. That day is not afraid, the earth is not afraid, the most loyal Ma Shan. As Ma Shan moved, Li Mukin also moved. He lifted his foot and kicked on Lu Da's scar knee. Just heard a crisp bone cracking sound, and Lu Hongyu's legs bent at an opposite angle. Accompanied by a fierce howl, Lu Hongyu fell to the ground. I gave you a chance, Li Mukin shook his head. Ah! Lu Hongyu cried out with a heart-wrenching voice, call someone. Call someone quickly. Call all my people here, kill him. Ah! Chapter 10. 18 Drops in Clothes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. He can't be called. Zhou Na reacted quickly. The security guard immediately blocked the door. Li Mukin said, let him go call. Upon hearing his words, Zhang Yiping finally concluded that this person was a lunatic. And Zhou Su was even more eager to bite him to death. Let Lu Scar go and call someone, isn't this just seeking death? Zhou Na crossed her hands in front of her chest and looked at Li Mukin, asking, do you know who Lu Dashan is? How many subordinates do he have? When he calls them over, I won't be able to open this scene anymore. I remember when I was a child, Brother Ma often taught us to kill snakes and subdue people. Li Mukin glanced at Ma Shan. Zhou Na was taken aback, if she had any realization. Upon hearing Li Mukin's words, Ma Shan also became bold and said, Sister Na, don't worry, today's matter is between us brothers, and it will never involve the bar. Zhou Na glared at Ma Shan. If you don't want to be involved, then don't be involved. She immediately ordered, clear the premises, all guests are free of charge, and another voucher will be issued. A security guard went down, and soon there were loud noises coming from outside. The bar suddenly cleared, causing dissatisfaction among the guests. Li Mukin turned around and said to Lin Manqing, you guys go too. Could you please take care of the lilacs? Lin Manqing nodded silently. Li Mukin said to Dingxiang again, sister, wait for us outside and remember to be with Miss Lin. Lin Manqing didn't understand why Li Mukin emphasized letting Dingxiang be with her. However, Li Mukin was very clear about Lin Manqing's identity in his heart. As long as Dingxiang followed Lin Manqing, she would definitely be safe. Dingxiang looked worried, but still followed Lin Manqing. Zhang Yiping and others have also gone out. At this moment, Lu Hongyu's bodyguard had already spread the news, and their people were on their way. When the bodyguard sent the message, Zhou Na saw it. She had intended to stop it, but she remembered Li Mukin's words just now, if you hit a snake, you must kill it, if you hit a person, you must subdue it. Indeed, even if he didn't let Lu Dashan make a fuss today, he would still bring someone to seek revenge in the future. So why don't you beat him until he's fully satisfied? But Zhou Na doesn't believe that Li Mukan and Ma Shan have this ability, and she can't do it herself. But someone can do it. So, she sent a message to Uncle Ming. In Hecheng, only Uncle Ming can treat people like Lu Daskar obediently. Not long after, several cars rushed outside the bar, including a sedan and 2 bread trucks. 4 people got off the sedan, while dozens of people surged out of the van at the same time, each holding a guy in their hand. This scene happened to be seen by Zhang Yiping and others who had not yet left. Be good, is this going to be a war? It's someone with Lu Da's scar. Zhang Yiping's eyes showed a hint of hatred, whether it was Lu Hongyu who made him lose face or Li Mukan. After the bar was cleared, it suddenly became very quiet. But everyone knows that behind this tranquility lies an impending storm. A group of people rushed into the bar and went up to the private room on the 2nd floor. Lu Hongyu, who was lying on the ground humming and groaning, suddenly came to his senses when he saw someone coming. He pointed at Li Mukan and said, "Get on me, kill him." These people, holding sticks or watermelon knives, rushed towards Li Mukan. Ma Shan shouted loudly, "If you want to move my brother, pass my level first." Holding a steel pipe in hand, he rushed into the crowd. I saw him rushing left and right, blocking left and removing right, as if entering an empty space. Zhou Na was extremely surprised. Ma Shan had been with her for many years, and she knew Ma Shan could play quite well, but she didn't expect him to play so well. But looking at it, I realized something was wrong. No matter how much Ma Shan can fight, he is just a physical mortal. How can he fight dozens of times alone? He could only deal with the 3 or 2 people in front of him, some of whom would sneak around and attack behind him, while others would attack Li Mukan. And the strangest thing was that he didn't see how Li Mukan moved. Those who rushed in front of him either fell down or used crooked moves. Not only did they not hit him, but they also hit their own people, helping Ma Shan break free from his back. Zhou Na observed for a long time, but seeing Li Mukan standing there calmly left her puzzled. Soon, Lu Hongyu's people lay on the ground. Ma Shan's face turned red, with a raging expression and gasping for breath, standing in the middle of the field like a heavenly god. In fact, even he didn't believe he could beat so many people. He knew it must be Li Mukan who helped. "Brother, I didn't expect you to learn martial arts in the mountains and put in a good set of skills." Ma Shan laughed heartily, "Great. It's been a long time since you fought so happily. Come on, who else is there?" Lu Hongyu couldn't believe his eyes. So many people have been killed. When he saw 2 people behind him, he breathed a sigh of relief. Zhou Na also noticed these 2 people. When Ma Shan was fighting just now, these 2 people never moved. One of them stood there, staring closely at Ma Shan. And the other person, like an old monk settling down, didn't even lift their eyelids. "What are you 2 still waiting for? Go ahead." Lu Hongyu roared. The 2 of them just walked out. The first person walked towards Mount Ma, while the middle-aged man, who was like an old monk settling down, walked towards Li Mukan. The person walking towards Mount Ma took out a short knife from his waist and without saying a word, stabbed directly into Mount Ma's ribs. "Good time." Ma Shan let out a cry, dodged and hit with his stick. The 2 of them started fighting in the limited space of the private room. The bodyguard's knife technique is sharp and decisive, with deadly moves. And Ma Shan used a stick to fight, opening and closing wildly. Li Mukan saw that Ma Shan did not seem defeated, but instead became more and more brave in battle. He calmed down and focused his attention on the person walking towards him. He could tell that this person was a martial arts master. The 2 stood face to face, neither speaking. Lu Hongyu called out, "Master Huang, hurry up and take action. Give him a life, leave him alive, and I will slowly kill him." "Shut up." Master Huang didn't even look back. Lu Hongyu immediately closed his mouth and remained silent. This surprised Zhou Na very much. She originally thought that Master Huang was a thug raised by Lu Hongyu, and even if he was hired with money, it was impossible for him to be so disrespectful to Lu Hongyu. Why does Lu Hongyu seem a bit afraid of him instead? It seems that there is an article behind this. Master Huang arched his hand at Li Mukin and said, "I'm from the Iron Clothes sect, Huang Hai. I noticed that the clothes you just used were quite heated. I don't know which sect you belong to. Which master is sitting under your seat?" Zhou Na's heart lit up. It turned out that she had fallen 18 times from getting wet in clothes. No wonder Li Mukin couldn't help but find it amusing that this person had mistakenly treated the immortal family's magical power as a drop in their clothes. Staying in clothes and falling 18 times is a way to force others to come up and then use their inner strength and skillful strength to throw them out. And what Li Mukin learned was the heavenly capital magic and the 9 transformations Shenyuan divine skill. Although he had not yet entered the innate world, he had to throw a few ordinary people in the air, which was not like playing. Ironclad sect. Li Mukin shook his head, "I haven't heard of it." Huang Hai thought that Li Mukin was intentional, and anyone who practices martial arts wouldn't know about the Iron Clothes sect. He angrily said, "Good kid, let me show you the 18 horizontal exercises of the Iron Clothes sect." After speaking, he shook his arms and his clothes shattered into fragments, flying in the air like snowflakes. This move stunned the people in the private room. Zhou Na was even more anxious. She was worried that even if Uncle Ming came, she wouldn't be able to tidy up the scene. Lu Hongyu laughed heartily and said, "Kid, did you see that? This is Kung Fu, you must die." At this point, Ma Shan had already cornered another bodyguard. The bodyguard was covered in injuries and quickly couldn't resist. He was knocked down by Ma Shan with several sticks. Ma Shan turned around and happened to see the scene of clothes exploding in the Yellow Sea. He was shocked and afraid that his brothers would suffer losses, so he rushed over. "Let me take a look first." After speaking, raising your hand is like a stick. The Yellow Sea did not hide, allowing Ma Shan's stick to hit his chest. Only a dull sound was heard, as if hitting an iron plate wrapped in leather. The stick bounced up, causing Ma Shan's arms to tingle. Sleeping trough, what an iron cloth shirt. Ma Shan let out a good cry and picked up a dagger from the ground, stabbing it directly into the throat of the Yellow Sea. The Yellow Sea still doesn't move. The dagger pierced the throat, and the tip of the knife was stunned as it couldn't get in. Ma Shan wanted to try again, but was stopped by Li Mukin. "I'll do it." He walked up to the Yellow Sea. "Didn't you just say that I can get 18 drops on my clothes? Let's see how my clothes get 18 drops. How can I break your golden bell and iron cloth shirt?" As soon as the words fell, the Yellow Sea had already flown out.